In this video, I'm gonna talk about the first time I've ever used a cell phone inside California prison. You know, the crazy part about it was like I got the phone so I can just make some money, so I can flip it and have some money in my books. But you know, before I did that, I made some calls, and those calls, it taught me something that I didn't understand until like years later. You know, the first thing I want to talk about is that, you know, what I talk about in this video and then in all my other videos, it's about my experience. And I'm not saying what I go through is like everybody else's experience. I'm just telling you from my perspective, my lens, and just sharing my stories with you. Before this happened, you know, my days were very simple. I just wake up, work out, eat, sleep, shower, write my letters, do my collect calls once in a blue moon, get my visits even more rare than that. You know, I wasn't trying to build relationships. I wasn't trying to build friendships or anything like that. You know, my mindset was just stay gritty, stay focused on my day-to-day program, and just go home as soon as possible, man. It was just pretty much no drama, no extra nonsense. There was a period of time where I got really lucky. I ended up having one of my homeboys from the streets come into my housing unit, and it was dope. It was somebody that I knew from a way back, you know, and we were actually hanging out before I actually got locked up. So this is actually like my boy, and you know, he ended up inside my housing unit, and he spit this idea from where he was at that he heard about, and he presented it to me. He was telling me about, you know, how cell phones had like touch buttons and how technology is changing, and they had this thing called drones. Like, you got to remember when I got incarcerated, it was a long time ago. They didn't even have touchscreen phones yet. Like, kids nowadays that are born, they that's all they know. They don't know about flip phones or, you know, sidekicks or anything like that, or the Nokia snake game. Like, that's the era I grew up in. Pagers, you know, reading numerics, 911, putting in your code. You know, that's the time frame I grew up in. So when my homie told me about this, I was like, yo, what is this? This is something different, you know? And he kept just pushing it in my ear. He just kept getting my ear about like, hey, you know, people are bringing in all this contraband with drones, and that's where the idea first came from. But here's the thing, though. You know, by the time I saw my homeboy again, you know, it's been a couple years since we actually last seen each other. Like, I saw him inside LA County Jail. When I got to prison, there was a time frame where he was somewhere else and I was at a different prison, and eventually we just, you know, he ended up coming to where I was at. And by that time, I was a completely different person. Before prison, you know, we were getting into fights all the time. We were just out in the streets late at night before school. You know, we were getting into, you know, all kinds of trouble, doing drugs, doing everything, you know. And when he actually saw me, I wasn't built like that anymore. I just wanted to just be good, want to just do my time and just get home as soon as possible. But, you know, you are you know, they always talk about you are who you hang around with, you know, and the environment that you're in, it has an influence on you. What you listen to, what you see, what you watch, they all play a factor in how you move. So when my homeboy came in, that's exactly what happened. You know, I let the influences that were around me, which was him, take over me. So he came up with this idea. You know, I made a couple calls, I got a couple visits, and we made it happen. So one day we were just out in the yard. We were working out, you know, and where I like to hang out when I'm out in the yard is like the workout area. Working out was like my thing. I didn't really like to walk the track. I didn't like to be all over the place, you know. I just people that wanted to find me, they knew exactly where I was, and you know, we just hung out at the bar area, at least where the others were at. Like, you know, that bar area, that's where you'll find me whenever I'm out in the yard. So, you know, that day when it happened, it was a bright sunny day, clear skies, you know, maybe some clouds, bright sun, and we were working out. And one minute I just got my head down, focused, and then next you know, my homie tapped me. He was like, "Hey, bro, like, hey, get ready." I'm like, "What?" Next you know, like, this thing just falls out of nowhere, boom, like out of the sky, and it landed about like five, no more than 10 feet away, you know. And the thing is, when I work out in between sets, like even now, if you find me at the gym, I do this thing where like I pace back and forth. So like, let's say I got a minute break in between like my chest workout or something, or doing squats, I do like this back and forth pace, and I got that through, you know, being incarcerated inside of a prison cell. So what I do is I just pace inside my cell, back and forth, back and forth. So in between my sets, I would count like 10 back and forths, and that would be my rest time. So I did the same thing whenever I went to the yard. I'll do my pull-ups and I'll pace back and forth. That's how I got that, you know. And like I said, if you catch me at the gym, you'll see me still doing that. You're thinking, who the hell was this little Asian guy like doing that? He looks crazy. So when that thing fell, it was normal for me to do my pacing back and forth. So I walked over there and I stepped on it. And my homeboy walked over with me. I stepped on it, and then, I acted like, I was doing a set of push ups. So once I stepped on it, I went down and I was doing my push ups. And when I went down, I made sure to like grab it. And I did like my push ups. And then next thing you know, like I got up, put it in my pocket, act like everything was cool. The yard was over, went back into the freaking cells, locked it up. Here's the thing that some people may not know, and it's like when yard is over and you're done with that time frame, you have to go back inside the cells. You go back into your housing unit. The COs, they will line up outside the entrance, and you're walking in one by one, and sometimes they'll search everybody before you go in, and sometimes they'll just randomly pick people out. And I remember there was a time like eating breakfast. I came back in. I was like walking back in, and I had, you put your hands behind your back, walking back into like the housing unit. And I remember like one of the CEOs like, hey, this guy looks guilty, because they don't want you to bring back food inside from the cafeteria. So they stopped me, they pulled me out. They're like, hey, this guy looks guilty. Let's search him. So they searched me. Come to find out, I didn't have anything. So that day, I got so freaking lucky, because when I walked back in, they were just randomly picking people out, and they didn't freaking like stop me to search me. So they just let me walk back in. That day could have just changed, and my time could have been different. I could have had more time added to my sentence. So once I got back into my cell, what I did to like hide the phone, because when I got the phone, you have to hide it. You're just inside of a jail cell. You can't like go walk back into your room and like stuff it under your mattress, or put it somewhere hidden. Like there's only so many places you can hide it inside of a prison cell, right? So once I got back in, my homeboy, he actually taught me this. You get like a jar of peanut butter, right? And once you open it, what you can do is you can scoop out the peanut butter and make like a hollow like hole inside the middle. And what you do is you grab like your contraband or whatever. You'll get some gloves or plastic, and then you wrap it up a couple times, and make sure it's really tight, and so the peanut butter doesn't like fall into it. So you scoop out some peanut butter, you make like a hole, like a hollow hole. You put it inside that hole. You get the peanut butter and you put it back on top. So when COs come to like, toss your like cell and they try to look for contraband, when they open up the jar, they'll look, they're like, oh, it's just peanut butter inside. So that's where I actually hid my freaking phone when I went back in from the yard. A lot of times when you hear stories about, inmates doing dirt, they'll put on like this huge bravado. Oh yeah, man, I'm the top dog. I was holding the keys to the yard. I was doing this and that. Like it was normal, and then I wasn't nervous or anything like that. I'm gonna be frank with you guys. You know, once I put the phone in that peanut butter jar and I closed the top, I felt like this sigh of relief. Like I was like, it was kind of like woosah. But the here's the thing though, right? Even though I felt comfortable, I don't know if anyone's owned a one of these legally, but when you own one of these, it gives you two feelings. One, a feeling of like you have like this power, right? You feel kind of powerful. A lot of people puff off their chest. But when you hold it inside your house, and it might be in your room right next to your like your bed where you sleep, and like the nightstand, or underneath your mattress, or it's very close by. Sometimes you'll leave and you might be in the kitchen, and even if you're like out and about kicking it, you always have like this weird feeling in the back of your head. It's like this notion, knowing like it's a level of uncomfort. Like you might be thinking like, did someone steal it? It's always there in the back of your head. So it's like this yin and yang of feelings. Like one, okay, it's relief that I hit this phone, right? But then the second feeling is like, that's at the same time that follows it. It's kind of like, okay, now that I have it here, shoot, man, I gotta make sure I never get in trouble for it. So it was like an odd feeling of this duality of emotions just playing at the same time. One of the reasons why I actually got the phone, there was like this Muslim brother that I was hella cool with, and he was talking about how he needed a phone. We ended up getting cool. We would talk, and he was a really low key guy. You wouldn't even know that he was there unless you actually like saw him and like paid attention. If not, he would never talk. Luckily for me, we actually got kind of cool, and we were talking. He was talking about how like he needs a phone and he needs to make these type of calls, and I was like, hey, I think I might be able to get you one. And he was the guy that I was gonna send it off to after I grabbed it. But before we made that deal, I don't know why I did this, but I made a couple calls, and maybe it was just me getting excited. I made a couple calls, and one of the calls was to my little brother. I called him on his cell phone. He picked up, and he was like, "Oh snap, what's up, bro?" Like, me and my brother were really, really tight, man. You know, um, he looked up to me, and when I made that call, you can hear the excitement in his voice. It's like, "What's up, bro? What's going on?" And what's happening. And for me, I don't really like sharing about what's happening inside here because it's Groundhog Day. What I would always ask is like, "Mom, man, what's going on out there, man? How's the parties? How's the club scene? Like, what's new? What?" I always ask about what music is cracking out there. And I remember the time when I called him, he played like this song. It was "Buy You a Drink" by like T-Pain or something, or like that song by Lil Wayne, "Lollipop." And I remember he put it to the phone, and I heard it, and I was like, "Oh man, this is so funny." That was me just kind of asking about like what's going on in the world out there. But the thing was, when I hung up, I come to realize like, man, I'm still stuck in prison. Like, this phone call didn't change anything. I'm still stuck in this cell. And that's when like reality kind of like hit me in the chest. I was like, dang, man, they didn't change anything. And I'm still stuck in this box, bro. And after I made that call, I was like, man, I'm gonna get rid of this. Like, I'm not a big time drug dealer. I'm not a big time like hustler or like mafia type guy. I'm just a normal dude. So when I got the phone, I don't know what other inmates do with it, but it was just a regular old phone, like small little like small flip phone. I'm not one of those guys organizing crime. That's not me, bro. After that call, I did what I planned to do with it. I slid it to the Muslim homie. The thing about being an Asian inside prison, we're hella cool with the blacks. Like, if you go inside like the housing unit where I was at, it's kind of like split into two day rooms. One side you have like the Southerners and the whites, and then on the other side you have the others and the blacks, and they split it right down the middle with two separate day rooms. And us, we operate very smoothly with the bros, with the brothers. So I slid him the peanut butter jar. He put the money on my books. But just like the freaking cell phone, man, having the money on my books, it didn't change anything. All that money did was just put more money on my books. That's it. More commissary, more hygiene products, more whatever. That's it. All materialistic things. But the thing was, like, all that money, I didn't even keep it, all of it, man. I was getting visits from this girl I was with. She was my ex. Hella cool, man. She rode with me throughout the whole entire process. And one time she came to visit me and she got a speeding ticket. So with the money on the books, I was like, oh snap, okay, let me send it home. The prisons, when you have money on your books, you can mail it home. They'll write a check or like a money order some type, and they'll mail it back home to the address of your choosing. So when I got the visit from old girl, she told me about her speeding ticket. I was like, oh man, she came here to visit me. All right, cool, man. I'm gonna just slide it over. I'm gonna mail it off to her, and just so she can have the money to pay for like the ticket, pay for the school and all that stuff. And yeah, that's what I did with the money. But the biggest lesson from the money, and this is something that I learned and I still carry with me to this day now. Hopefully you guys do as well, is that like when you have the money, right, it feels real. But it only feels real if you can share it with the people that you care about in your life. Or else having money it's just pointless, it's meaningless, man. Looking back at it now, I get it. I had the phone, I made the calls, I made the money, but honestly, none of that filled the emptiness. You know, comfort, it hits you the same, whether you're inside of prison or you're free outside on the other side of the walls. You know, comfort inside prison makes you sloppy, but comfort out in the free world makes you complacent. And the moment you're stop being uncomfortable is the moment you stop growing. That phone gave me comfort for about like 30 seconds. And as soon as I hung up, like reality just hit me like boom, like right in the stomach and then woke me back up, you know? And it doesn't matter whether you're like inside of prison or you're free on the other side, you know? Quick wins, it doesn't fix anything in your life. Having comfort without purpose is like having emptiness. And then even worse is like having all this money without meaning. It doesn't even move your life forward. So everyone out here is like trying to chase money, 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 but they forget like the true meaning behind it. Like money allows you to have the freedom, not only for yourself, but the people around you. And if you don't have the people around you, then what are you having freedom for? To be alone? So yeah, that's my story right there. Hopefully everyone learned a little bit more about me, who I am, and all the lessons that I went through. You know, if you want to support this channel, or heck man, if this video evoked some emotions out of you, if it made you think, if it made you feel something, it maybe brought back some feelings, or it made you think of someone that is going through this, or maybe it brought back some memories that you went through. You know, if you want to support the channel, you know, there's a subscribe button down below. There's a like button. There's also a share button here as well. And there's a comment section that you can leave a comment down below where it helps pushes out, you know, engagement on the algorithm. You know, and if you want to do that, you can push some of the buttons down there. And I just want to make sure everyone understands what kind of platform I'm building here. I want to build a platform where I'm helping the younger generation of young men and women understand the pitfalls of life, you know, without actually going through it themselves. And they learn it through stories that I share here, and maybe some of the stories that people share in the comment section down below. You know, they learn these lessons without burning their hands as they go through this crazy world we call life. And if you want to support something like that, there's a subscribe button down below. Like I mentioned earlier, you can also like the video, you can share this with somebody, and you can also leave a comment with just maybe your thoughts or a story that you went through yourself. So yeah, I appreciate you guys watching the video. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.